The market's calling this biotech company high risk, high reward. They're losing their top patent and a chunk of their revenue in 1 year. But as a value investor, I'm in. I'll break down the risks, the pipeline, and the upside that I see so you can decide for yourself before the window closes. As a value investor, the first step that I often take when I'm looking for a company to invest in is I use a screener. One of my favorite screeners, it's very simple. I only have 3 criteria in this particular screener. Volume over 1 million. I want to invest in companies that get a lot of trading volume, because if the market is very aware of this company and lots of people are trading it, in my mind, it has a higher likelihood of being overpriced or underpriced, because there's more people either fleeing the stock or more people running into the stock. That is the logic for having a high volume over 1 million. Next, I want to see revenue growth of over 10% per year for the next 5 years projected. And finally, a price to free cash flow ratio under 40. I prefer price to free cash flow as my favorite value metric. I like it over earnings, because whenever I'm calculating the intrinsic value of a company, I use the discounted future free cash flow method, which I'm going to be getting into a little bit in this video. So right off the bat, the company that jumps out at me is this top company, Genmab, GMAB. It has the highest projected revenue over the next 5 years by far, and it has an incredibly low price to free cash flow. This seems too good to be true. So before I take a deep dive into a company and spend a lot of time researching it, I like to do just a quick check using my automated spreadsheet, where I calculate a lot of Warren Buffett's red flags that he looks for whenever he's evaluating companies. So all I have to do is type the stock ticker into my spreadsheet, and it automatically calculates red flags and green flags. So if a cell is highlighted green, it's a green flag. That means that it has a high probability of having a durable competitive advantage. If a cell is highlighted red, then it comes up as a red flag to Warren Buffett. So the only red flag I'm seeing is R&D. As I'm scrolling down, I'm seeing lots of green, only 1 red. So Warren Buffett does not like to see high R&D cost as a percentage of gross revenue. So this company spends a significant amount on R&D, but everything else is looking good. Really high gross margin, very low selling, general, and administrative costs as a percentage of their gross profit. And then interest expense is very low as a percentage of their operating income. Profit margin is high. They have 0 long-term debt. So this looks really strong. Their profit is trending up every year. Earnings per share is doing the same. Their retained earnings is going up every single year. Their debt is very low, their cash is high, and their share count is slowly dropping. So I would like to see more share buybacks, but this company is looking really strong. Because I'm seeing tons of red flags, I'm going to start a deep dive into Genmab. So whenever I go to stockanalysis.com, just to get the quick overview, I'm seeing that this is a biotechnical company that develops antibody-based products and product candidates for treatments of cancer. With biotech companies that are producing medication, they can be incredibly volatile because they're only able to sell their products for a limited amount of time until their patents expire. This is the case for many of these companies. And then they're relying on their pipeline of upcoming products to replace the revenues that they're about to lose. So that is the catalyst for this company. Next, before I can calculate the intrinsic value of Genmab, I need to take a dive into the weeds and see how I can project their future free cash flow. So the way I do that is like this. I use one simple equation. So future free cash flow equals their future revenue multiplied by their past free cash flow margin. So the free cash flow margin, or I should say the past free cash flow margin, this is the percentage of their revenue that they're able to generate free cash flow. So this number right here is really easy. It's just known. I can look it up. So we'll put a check right there. As far as their future revenue, there are 3 different ways that I calculate their future revenue, or I predict it. So first of all, I can use the professional analysts' projections for future revenue. The second thing I can do is look at Genmab's own forward revenue guidance. And then the third way is I use my own projection, taking into account the analysts and taking into account their past revenue growth. First, let's look at the analyst projections for future revenue. I find that on stockanalysis.com. I go to the forecast tab, and if I scroll down a bit, I can see it right here. Now, clearly, in 2025, this has got to be a typo. I don't know how they have 808% revenue growth in 2025. So we will amend those cells right there. But going forward, the highest analysts think that Genmab's going to be able to find a new drug to be able to sell after their patents expire. So they're showing 27, 30, 50% revenue growth in the next 5 years. The average analysts are looking at low double-digit growth, and then the lowest analysts are looking at revenue dropping off by 3%, 10%, and then 18% in 2029. So that's one set of projections. The second I like to look at is Genmab's own projection. So to find that, I go to their 2025 outlook. So right here in 2025, they're showing a revenue growth of 12%. So whenever I amend the analyst projections, the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to repeat 2026's projection right here in 2025. I'll set that to 28%. For the average analyst, I'm going to use Genmab's projection. I'm going to use 12%. And then for the lowest, I'll use 3%. I'll use in line with 2026. So I am going to be editing the analyst projections, but that's how I'm going to be doing it. So in my spreadsheet where I calculate the intrinsic value of a company, I have pasted in those values right here. So I'm going to make this 28. We'll make this one 12, Genmab's projection, and then we'll make this 3. So I've got my analyst projections now, and the resulting intrinsic value projections are 162 for the highest analyst, 62 for the average, and 32 for the low. Now, here is the past free cash flow margin that I'm applying to those future revenue projections. So over the last 5 years, their average free cash flow margin is 37.33. This graph shows the past free cash flow margin, and then this yellow line going forward is the average that I'm going with. This graph right here is showing the spread of revenues. You can see there's a massive difference in the different trajectories that this company could take. So if I assume that the highest analyst is correct for the next 5 years, which we can see right here, I'm also projecting years 6 through 10 as being 5%. And then I have a perpetual growth rate of 2%. So I have this company growing a little bit less than inflation going forward. So with those assumptions in place and a discount rate of 7.06, I go to alphaspread.com and I use the cost of equity as the discount rate. That's where I get that. So with these assumptions in place, I'm seeing a huge spread of different intrinsic values, and they are all way higher than the current share price. So the lowest analyst projections are giving me an intrinsic value of 32, which is a 56% upside. So if I go to Genmab's current share price up on the overview, it is $20 per share. So even with the lowest analyst projections, we are seeing a massive upside. So the market is clearly pricing this company well below expectations because the market does not think that Genmab can overcome its short-term risks. So now for my projection, I want to understand a little bit better what are the exact risks of this company. I'm not just solely going to use the analyst projections. And the best way to find that out, in my opinion, is to go to their annual report. They have a section dedicated to risks related to our business. And the very first one is the most relevant here. Our financial results and near-term prospects are substantially dependent on the commercial success of Darzalex. Darzalex is their primary source of revenue right here. They're showing it accounts for 69% of their revenue. The royalties payable by Janssen are limited in time, and their patents start expiring in March of 2026. So we actually have less than a year before the revenue from their number one product starts to drop off. So this is the fear that the market has about Genmab. So what are the chances that they're going to be able to overcome? Do they have drugs in the pipeline that are well along in the production? Right here, this is where I can see their current approved products and their pipeline, which is past phase 2. So this is only showing their drugs that are past phase 2 development. What I'm seeing is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 drugs that are either into phase 3 or to the end of phase 3. So they've got several prospects out there. So the question is, are one of these going to be a success in the next year or two, which can replace the revenue from Darzalex, or are they going to fail? So that is the question. It's a little bit of a coin flip because I'm not going to lie, I do not understand these drugs. I have no way of knowing if any of them are going to be a success. All I can look at is the risk reward. What is the potential upside and what is the potential downside? Normally, I don't go for companies like this, but in Genmab's case, it appears that their downside is relatively low. Let's look at a potential scenario. I'm going to use Genmab's own revenue guidance of 12%. And then I'm going to assume that they start losing revenue in 2026. So I'm going to go with -5% in 2026. I'm going to say -10% in 2027, -15% in 2028, and -20% in 2029. That would be the next 5 years of revenue. So I'm going to make that adjustment for years 6 through 10. After that, I'm going to say they're going to also be losing 5% every year. And with that in mind, the new analyst projection is $21. So to me, it seems like this is what the market is pricing. This is the future that the market sees for Genmab. This green line right here, losing revenue over the next 5 years, losing 5% revenue for year 6 through 10, and then stabilizing at that low revenue after losing so much revenue over the years. And it is still giving me an intrinsic value that is 6% higher than the current share price of Genmab. What I'm seeing is the market has already priced in the worst possible scenario. And from what I can see, it looks like they've even priced it a little bit too low beyond that. So the upside I'm seeing with this scenario is 400%. Realistically, if the market has already priced it down this far, the market will drop it a little bit further. But this company has such a strong balance sheet. They have zero debt. They've got tons of cash on hand that, to me, it looks like that they are able to weather a lot of issues going forward. They have lots of drugs in the pipeline. They are acquiring companies with their extra cash that they have. In the first quarter of 2025, on May 8th, they show a few highlights here where they are making progress with Epkinly. They're making progress with Rina-S. It continues to show encouraging anti-tumor activity. Tivdak, I hope I'm saying these right, approved in Japan and the European Union. And then Genmab increased their revenue by 19% quarter over quarter. So on their latest quarterly report, they're showing some progress and they have an incredibly strong balance sheet. Whenever I go to their financials on stockanalysis.com, click on the balance sheet tab, they have $3.2 billion in cash. Their R&D budget is $1.5 billion over the last 12 months. So they're scaling up their R&D. They've got lots of cash on hand to cover that. And they're still going to be bringing in a lot of revenue from royalties on their primary drug. For this company, seems like they have a solid chance to replace their blockbuster drug. The market has already priced them well below their intrinsic value, pricing in the worst case scenario. I think this is an asymmetric risk opportunity where the potential upside is much better than the potential downside. So this is the company that I'm going to be investing in this week. This is my public YouTube portfolio series where I invest in a different company every week. Here's a quick look at the current portfolio. We have $3,555 invested. We have $242 in market gains at this time, which is a 15% money weighted rate of return. I'll filter these by most gains to most losses so we can get a quick feel for the portfolio. We've got several companies that are 20% plus. My best holding so far is Hims. That one has absolutely popped off. And then down here at the bottom, we've got a handful of companies that are currently in the red. Simply Good Foods and Akame Technologies being my two worst holdings. However, I am not ruling these companies out yet. This is a very long-term minded portfolio. I'm not judging their success based on several months. They will be judged based on several years. And the only reason that I will sell out of a company is not because it drops too low or not because it gets too high in terms of percentage on my portfolio. The only reason I'll be selling is if the future free cash flow analysis gives me an intrinsic value that is just way higher than their current share price. This could be because the market has pumped the stock way too much. It might be still a great company, but it's just pumped way too high. Or it could be that something has gone wrong with this company and the intrinsic value has dropped below the market value for the company. So those are the main reasons I'll be selling. Currently very happy with the portfolio as it's up 15%, while the stock market has been very choppy. If you like high upside plays, last week I covered a well-known tech stock that is still wildly undervalued. Check it out right here.